Hi everyone, and welcome back to the best channel on YouTube. Christmas is in the air, and with this being a Steely Dan channel, I thought it might be nice to put out a Christmas-themed Steely Dan video. But of course the problem with this is that there isn't really much overlap between Steely Dan and Christmas. There is, however, one surprisingly common debate in the community that does bridge this gap. Namely, is Charlie Freak a Christmas song? This may be a surprise to those not in the know, but even a quick Google search shows that this question has been discussed quite a bit by Dan fans, enough that the association between the track and Christmas has at some point been lodged in my brain. So in order to get to the bottom of this, let me introduce a new series on this channel, Steely Dan Mysteries, where I will analyse and get to the bottom of some of the long-lasting debates in the community. If you have any suggestions for the series, let me know in the comments, but for now let's jump into the analysis. Charlie Freak is the 10th and penultimate track on Steely Dan's third album, Pretzel Logic. Blah blah blah, you get the idea, you know what this song is, why would you be here if you didn't? What you're presumably dying to know is if it is a Christmas song. So, is it? Well, let's first talk a bit about what makes a song a Christmas song. Before any complicated expansion on these ideas, I simply want to lay down some basic rules I think anyone would agree makes a song Christmassy. It should use distinctively Christmassy instruments, or at least a distinct application of them. For example, many songs use bells, but I'm sure we all know the sound being referred to when I mention instrumental choice that evokes the holiday. The song should relate to one or multiple themes of Christmas. This is obvious, of course. You can't have a Christmas song that isn't about some of the core ideas or imagery surrounding the holiday. Christmas trees, the giving and exchanging of gifts, sexual coercion. The song needs to create a sense of wintry nostalgia, instrumentally and lyrically, that conjures up long winter nights, snow, and a sense of bittersweet happiness that comes from the holiday season. Basically, it needs to go beyond simply using instrumental and lyrical cues to remind people of Christmas, and actually evoke it emotionally by appealing to the deeper feelings surrounding it. So, does Charlie Freak match any of these simple rules? Let's discuss. To start with, we have perhaps the easiest of these rules to address of the three. It's almost impossible to deny that, intentionally or not, the utilisation of instruments on Charlie Freak is stylistically reminiscent of Christmas music. The most obvious example of this is the use of bells. At first, the bells are only used very sparingly, appearing just once for almost the entire first 2 minutes of the song. However, by the end of the fourth verse, around the 1 minute 50 mark, they come to the forefront of the track, where they remain for the rest of the song. These bells are just about as Christmassy as you'll find. They are literally jingle bells, and I think even people who argue against this track being a Christmas song would find it hard to disagree. Beyond the bells, there isn't anything in the selection and arrangement of instruments in this track that overtly signals Christmas, but at the same time there isn't anything here that is overtly un-Christmassy either. It's all fairly standard, with the exception of the unique noise Skunk gets from his electric guitar, another sound which doesn't really go either way but to me personally does fit into a wintry vibe. Also of note is a piano piece by Michael Omartian that literally uses the same tune as this track and is, overtly and unquestionably, a Christmas track. Interesting. The case for Charlie Freak being a Christmas song is furthered by its lyrics. The conditions I laid out were that the song should allude to Christmassy imagery or themes and messages, and I think this song does both. It uses very cold imagery, which immediately links it to that wintry feeling that, on top of the song using literal jingle bells, is almost begging for this debate to be had. More importantly, the song's entire story is one that discusses fundamental Christmas themes of generosity and compassion. As a broad overview, the song follows a narrator who buys a ring from a homeless man who is selling it for less than it is worth out of desperation, and the narrator's horror when he learns of the homeless man's death, ultimately returning it to him after he passes away. In this sense, it may be one of the few Steely Dan tracks with a moral, and its message is one that is fundamentally Christmassy, a fact only heightened by its past tense, wistful narration. There is, however, more to it than that. I spoke to fellow Steely tuber Dingus for my research for this video, and whilst he noted everything I had above, he also made some very good points about why Charlie Freak might not be a Christmas song, specifically about the lyrics. You could also argue that it isn't, since the song has no lines referencing Christmas or even December for that matter, and it's more about having some compassion for the plight of the homeless and some of their fatal struggles with drug addiction, rather than being generous for the sake of holiday spirit. This interpretation, that the song is instead a comment on how people should be more generous to those in need, would not necessarily entirely disprove the theory that this is a Christmas track, but at the same time it does provide alternate explanations to the Christmassy elements in a way which could. The allusions to cold and winter could merely be a framing device to accentuate the suffering of the titular character, having to bear the long New York City winter nights on the streets. The song under this reading could even be characterized as an anti-Christmas track, a song which uses the cliché instrumental cues to satirically comment on the season of giving when people on the streets are getting nothing. Knowing Fagan and Becker, it isn't hard to imagine this interpretation being the original intent. Having established that, even if the intent is nuanced or debatable, the song's instrumental and lyrical choices could be interpreted as an attempted Christmas song, there is only one question that remains. Is said attempt successful? When analysing if a song is indeed a Christmas song, Christmassy elements count for naught if the sum of the song's parts fails to invoke the spirit of the season. If it doesn't make you think of Christmas, it can't really be a Christmas song. Well, the fact this video exists is a major score in the favour of the argument that it is. As I mentioned earlier, this question isn't a new one. I wouldn't make a video called Steely Mysteries and then talk about things only I believe. There have been countless Reddit threads asking this question, and the YouTube comments on the video are filled with people saying it is. The fact of the matter is that, regardless of what Fagan and Becker intended, many people view this as a Christmas track. And really, is that not all that matters? I'm just kidding. But to conclude, I think it is hard to say. In terms of whether or not I think Fagan and Becker intended for this to be a Christmas song, I don't think it's black and white. I think they intended for it to evoke the holiday season as a means of establishing a thematic backdrop for the central story, but does that make it a Christmas song? I personally think it's too nuanced to say for sure. If I had to describe this song's relationship with Christmas, I'd say it's a song set during the Christmas season, not a song about Christmas. Despite its jingle bells and wintry setting, its dark themes, lack of any mention of Christmas, and the fact that it would just be weird for them to write a Christmas song in general lead me to conclude that it is not one. At the end of the day though, interpretation is up to the audience, not the creator. There are very valid reasons to think of this as a Christmas song, as has been discussed. And if doing so means you get to celebrate the holiday season with some Steely Dan, I think there is no problem with that whatsoever. Thank you all for watching, have a happy holidays, and I'll see you in the next video.